What if what you've ever needed to achieve every single goal in your life, to survive, to thrive, to be happy, what if all you've ever needed to do all those things has been with you all along, but you just never knew it? In this video, I want to talk about one superpower. And I'm not going to waste your time to pull you through the video to do it. However, if you do stay to actually get through the whole video, not only would you discover a book that I think every single person should read, but you'll find out something about the way people live their lives and how that stops us from achieving those goals. Hey, my name is Kamga and I'm a writer. And I think too much. On this channel, I've been making videos about creativity, immigration, and relationships, and that has been my spiel for a long time. However, I would now start making videos that have a whole different dimension because of what you're going to discover in this video, the superpower that every single person has. So what is that superpower? First, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do subscribe. And if you have subscribed to the channel or you're subscribing right now, there's a notification bell right there, which looks like a bell thingy. If you click that bell, whenever I post a video, you will find out that I have a new video, and then you watch it, which will be great because I want the algorithm to know that I'm making good videos. Anyway, what's that superpower? It's almost so obvious. It's almost so bland and empty that you would think like, but Kamga, of course I know this thing. The superpower is simple. You always have a choice. I know. Doesn't sound like much, but hear me out. So how did I even know I wanted to be a writer? When I was in secondary school in St. Bede's College, Ashinkom, in 2004, I was 14 years old. I came in contact for the first time with writing. Words, writing, telling stories, audio, video, podcasts, everything that I've done on YouTube, on Medium, on everything else still revolves around the area of storytelling. Nobody ever told me this is what I wanted to do. And I think like you, nobody has ever told you maybe you want to be a good cook. Maybe you start doing something and then people discover that, oh, you're good at this thing, and they keep telling you, hey, I really like to eat your food. I really like to hear your stories. I like the way you dress. I like the way you talk to people. I like the way you interview. When you find your thing that you want to do, it emerges from a place within. And my personal theory is that every single person was born with that thing. And then as a child, you dabble in it. Sometimes you discover it early, sometimes you discover it very late. But every single person has something that drives them, that keeps them going. The thing they call passion, your gift. You have a gift from God that is yours and yours alone. For some reason, I feel like everybody finds a way to not achieve this dream, to not achieve this goal. We hide in the guise of, oh, you're an adult. You have to be living your life a particular way. Or for me, and I think for many people, African kids especially, our parents put us in a position where we are forced. When I put forced in quotes because the whole point of the superpower is that you actually were never forced. You always have a choice. We are forced to do things or to take career paths that don't tie in with those things that we really want to do. So when I was 14 and I discovered literature, I really wanted to do this writing thing, but I was in Cameroon and I wasn't exposed to many writers, which is funny because Cameroon has actually a huge plethora of many successful grand writers, from Belasone Dipoko to many other people whose names I cannot bring up right now because I do not have a list of the writers. However, we have many writers, people who were long writing before the internet became a thing. I wasn't exposed to these people, so I did not know that actually it's possible to make a living as a writer. So I would dabble on my writing, dabble on my blog, do some poetry, write about things, fiction, non-fiction. Around 2012, when I decided to go to college, actually 2007, when I went to college, I did the sciences, which means that I was actually drifting away, far away from the writing thing, which was closer to the arts life. And that was when it started breaking. That was when I had the first realization that I thought I didn't have a choice, because my parents, in good faith, with the best possible advice that they could give, said, well, you are pretty good at these other science subjects. You're pretty good at all these things. And we live in a community where it's better if you actually get a science degree. That's where I made my first mistake. And the mistake has replicated throughout my life. And the mistake I think many people make, which is what I would prefer to share with you by using an excerpt from a book. So right now I'm going to read from The Alchemist and then come back to explain how that led to a series of events where I found myself last month celebrating my 30th birthday and realizing all along I always had a choice. Some background. The Alchemist is a book by Paulo Coelho that I think every single person should read. The very first time I got my copy, my cousin Juliet sent me a copy and I left it in Cameroon when I was traveling, so I bought the same 25th edition and 25th anniversary edition, and I think I read this book almost every single year, it's like my Bible. And every time I read it, I discover something new. And today I was reading it again, and there's a passage I wanted to share to talk about the whole idea of choice and decisions and how people actually put themselves in positions where they fail and they don't achieve their dreams. And you think that is because people cannot achieve their dreams, but sometimes people actually choose not to achieve their dreams. So I want to read this passage. It said it's the conversation between the shepherd boy and the crystal merchant. So not to give any spoilers, but the boy is on his journey and he meets this crystal merchant, and this is a time when he's asking the merchant to do something more to grow his business. And the merchant, the day before, a couple of days earlier, the boy had told him that he didn't want to travel. The boy had told the merchant that the merchant didn't want to travel, he didn't want to see the world. So the merchant now is talking. So let's get into it. The merchant was silent for a few moments. Then he said, "The Prophet gave us the Quran and left us just 5 obligations to satisfy during our lives. The most important is to believe only in the one true God. The others are to pray 5 times a day, fast during Ramadan, and be charitable to the poor. He stopped there, his eyes filled with tears as he spoke of the Prophet. He was a devout man, and even with all his impatience, he wanted to live his life in accordance with Muslim law. "What's the 5th obligation?" the boy asked. 2 days ago, you said that I had never dreamed of travel, the merchant answered. "The 5th obligation of every Muslim is a pilgrimage. We are obliged at least once in our lives to visit the holy city of Mecca. Mecca is a lot farther away than the pyramids. When I was young, all I wanted to do was put together enough money to start this shop. I thought that someday I'd be rich, I could go to Mecca. I began to make some money, but I could never bring myself to leave someone in charge of the shop. The crystals are delicate things. At the same time, people were passing my shop all the time heading for Mecca. Some of them were rich pilgrims traveling in caravans with servants and camels, but most of the people making the pilgrimage were poorer than I. All who went there were happy at having done so. They placed the symbols of the pilgrimage on the doors of their houses. One of them, a cobbler who made his living mending boots, said that he had traveled for almost a year through the desert, but that he got more tired when he had to walk through the streets of Tangier buying his leather. "Well, why don't you go to Mecca now?" asked the boy. Now, this is the part that I wanted you to pay attention. I needed to give you that background because it's a whole conversation of how he wants to do this thing. He has this dream that he wants to achieve. Like many of us, there is something that he knows from a childhood, from a long time that he wants to do. For me, it's writing a book. I want to travel the world. I want to taste foods around the world. I want to tell stories. I want to meet people from various cultures. So everybody has something. And for the merchant, is going to Mecca. That is one thing that he has been like, I really want to do this thing. I really want to go to Mecca on pilgrimage. "Well, why don't you go to Mecca now?" asked the boy. "Because it's the thought of Mecca that keeps me alive. That's what helps me face these days that are all the same. These mute crystals in the shelves and lunch and dinner at the same horrible cafe. I'm afraid that if my dream is realized, I'll have no reason to go on living." And that's the thing, isn't it? There's a quote that I'm sure you've heard that it's not that we are afraid of what we can do, it's that we are afraid that we are going to succeed if we do them. Because the fear of achieving your goals may actually be bigger than you achieving those goals. And that's what I've discovered in my life. Whether it was 2007 when I was doing the sciences and actually afraid to switch and give up, and I had to make that mistake in 2012 again and restart college, whether it was quitting jobs that I did not like, internships that I did not like, relationships that I did not like, the fear of leaving something that is stable to follow a dream that you could achieve is sometimes huge. And the superpower that I think everyone needs in these moments, in the moments when you're wondering what you should do, is that you always have a choice. When I turned 30 last month, I had this moment of reflection, like everybody probably does on their birthday, where they think about what they've done with their life, how far they are with things, like what is going on, what do you have left now that you're 30? I was like, well, in 10 years I'm going to be 40 years old. I just moved to the US. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still confused. I just got a job. I'm still struggling to be a husband. I'm still having these difficulties about what I want, my own dreams, how to achieve them. I haven't published a book. Like, I was thinking about all these things I hadn't done, thinking about all the goals and the people who told me, you're a good writer, you're a good poet, you tell stories very well, but I find myself still thinking like, but I don't even know how to transmit these skills. I don't even have the consistency to write on a daily basis. And when I was thinking about this for especially the past month, because I've had a very difficult month, I've gone to a place in my mind, which is why this channel will be changing, which is where I was asking myself, like, what do I really want? What is my Mecca? Where do I want to go? What am I sacrificing to not do those things? What am I giving up on so that I don't achieve those goals? And like many people, I think we never take the time to actually pause and look at everything that we're doing, the machine that we've gotten ourselves into, and actually be like, this thing that I'm doing right now, am I doing this to avoid the thing that I really want to do? Am I doing this? Am I in this relationship to avoid meeting the person that I really want to fall in love with? Am I getting this job to avoid following my dream? Am I going to school to avoid the time to actually think about what I really want to do that maybe has nothing to do with school? Because that's where I find myself right now, this particular moment where I'm asking myself, am I avoiding my dream by doing everything else? And I find myself having to take a stand, realizing that no matter what you do, because the boy and the merchant talk, and he actually eventually changes his mind, and he's not even sure if he goes to Mecca. And like I told you earlier, I don't want to spoil the book. I think The Alchemist is a powerful book that will teach you lessons about life that I think you will not even find in many self-improvement, self-help books. It's one of those powerful stories that you see yourself in the boy. and you get messages. It's like the way people read the Bible. Sometimes you read the Bible when you're troubled by something, and then you find yourself discovering answers to questions that you have. And that's where I find myself right now when I read The Alchemist. Whenever I'm in an impasse in my life, I read The Alchemist and I find answers to questions, like knowing, for example, right now that no matter how scared I am about what I want to do, I always have a choice. And even people who will tell you might be telling me, Kamga, you're saying that you have a choice now because you're in America. You're saying you have a choice now because you can speak, or you found your thing when you were young enough, or you have the money to even get a camera, get gear to make videos. You're saying all that because you have all these things, which we've talked about it somehow, about this excuses versus reason, but you're right. Sometimes you're in a very difficult position that you cannot do things. Sometimes life throws you terrible things. You lose your parents. You yourself, you lose like a part of your body in an accident. You lose your eyes. People are blind. People are born handicapped. There's so many things in this world that cannot be explained away by saying, oh, just feel happy and be good. You have a choice. You might not have a choice in the circumstances in which you are right now, but you always have a choice the way you deal with those circumstances. Like Nietzsche says, any man who has a strong enough why can live through anyhow. So it doesn't really matter where you're discovering your dream right now. It doesn't matter if you're finding out today that you want to be a baker for a living. It doesn't matter if you're finding out today that you really want to have a child right now and that's your thing that you want to do. It doesn't matter whether you're in Cameroon or in the US or in Turkey or wherever you are, or that you cannot speak a language. If you make a choice to start today, if you make a choice to start taking action towards those dreams, first, you have to beat away that fear of that if you achieve those dreams, what is going to happen. And the way you beat that fear is to accept what you really want and ask yourself, are you willing to lose the chance of actually living your full life, your ultimate potential, because you are afraid to take the next step? And in the book, something also happens about the river, where they say you can make a decision right now. I can say, okay, right now, for example, one decision I'm making is that this channel, the content is going to be not so much about creativity and relationships and immigration. It's going to be about tutorials, teaching people things, and about reacting to the world around me. I've been holding on to this idea of what I want to see on my YouTube channel, of how I want to build it, contemplating, thinking, strategizing, writing lists of ideas, instead of actually taking those steps forward, instead of actually, like the merchant, take the money, actually go to Mecca. I've been holding off. And right now I'm changing that. I'm choosing to show up and try things, knowing that there is a very high chance people will say, Kamga, what are you doing? That doesn't look like you. What are you trying to do on your YouTube channel? Because in the end, that's what happens to everybody. When you choose to make a decision and change your life the way you change, people will show up, one, to criticize you and tell you that you're not doing anything, because sometimes they're like the merchant. They found out that they don't want to do anything, and that's it. They're fine with it. And so when they see other people achieving those goals and making those steps, they will speak up and try to stop you from doing that. And you should not let that happen. And that's just one of the group. There are people who criticize you, but also, like the king that the boy met, there are people who will show up to help you. There are people who will support you, mentors, friends, family. And not every kind of help that you think you want, you will get the way you want. Because there were times in the book that I saw with Santiago, the boy, that he thought he needed maybe money, but he had to discover that what he really needed was the words that were given to him at a particular time. No matter where you are right now, your superpower is to know that you always have a choice. You don't have to live life the way it is right now. You don't have to feel stuck. You don't have to feel like this is it. You're stuck. Once you're alive, there is hope. Once you're living and breathing and you can walk, and even if you can't walk, I'm sure you've seen those videos of people who have there's a pastor who has no arms, no legs, who is still living the dream. So I'm not going to tell you what's your excuse or make you feel like, oh, you should be motivated and get up and go. It's really consider this. Really consider this. What would happen if you actually achieve your dream? What would happen if you actually traveled the world? What would happen if you wrote that book that you want to write? What would happen if you spoke to that girl or that boy? What would happen if you took responsibility for your life and accepted that you always have a choice? Where to go to, who to talk to, how to handle situations in your life. It's something that I'm learning now at the ripe old age of 30, and learning to let go and to think about all those times that I was blaming my parents to force me to make decisions, or blaming people in my life to influence my decisions. It's true. People say things that affect the way you think. You are surrounded, you're the sum of your environment, the books you read, the people you talk to affect the way you see the world. But once you know that you always have a choice whether to take an opinion or not, once you know that you always have a choice whether to follow this particular path or not, man, it's so liberating. And I hope today you discover that. So that's what I had to share with you today about your superpower, that you always have a choice. You can always change the course of your life It's within you. How you choose to do that is totally up to you. If you like this video and you want to see more of these kinds of videos, I'll be doing a lot more tutorials, reactions, and reviews. So whether it's books, pop culture, news articles, things that are happening in the world that I feel I have an opinion on, I really want ultimately, the ultimate goal of this channel is to find out, what can I learn from this? That is the question at the end of it all. When you read a book, what can you learn from it? When you watch a movie, what can you learn from it? When you watch a show, when a phenomenon happens, when a celebrity says something, or there's a reaction on the internet, what can you learn from this? So if you're interested in that kind of content, you're interested in learning things from various activities, looking at what you can use in that aspect to follow your dream and achieve those goals, then please subscribe to the channel right now if you haven't subscribed yet. Like this video if you liked it, and click on the notification bell so that whenever I post a video, you would see it. I'm going to be posting videos every Tuesday. That frequency is very likely to be increasing. I don't want to put myself on the record saying something I'm not going to do, but there's a very high chance now that I'm feeling that strength of knowing that I have a choice that I'm going to be doing more. And yeah, if you haven't read The Alchemist yet, please do. It's a really amazing book. I read it almost every single year. Let me know in the comment section, what is something that you've discovered that you really want to do, that you find yourself stopping yourself from doing? And when was a time in your life that you realized that you always had a choice? Was it the breakup? Was it the disappointment? Was it the critique? Somebody spoke to you a way you didn't like, and then you realized that actually I don't have to react to that. So let me know in the comment section. And in the meantime, here's a video that you can watch that I posted last week. And here's another video that YouTube has recommended that I think you're going to like. So I'm going to put in those videos and I'm going to see you in the comment section. Thank you so much for giving me your time. Remember, your superpower is that you always have a choice. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.